am the Secretary General of the UCOTD. Today we have a very powerful topic. It's talking about the humanitarian reality and refugees' realities in our ages. And we will talk about the Sudan context and the Egypt context in general to review what is happening overall and reflecting that, let's say, our message to the international community, to give a shadow reflection details about the nature of the crisis in general. And so this is the Dr. Roberto. He's the director, I think, of the Upward. So he can introduce himself, and then we can go or indulge ourselves in the subject. I think it's very interesting.
Thank you, and I am pleased to talk with you today. A wonderful initiative. I am Roberto J. Marin. I am from Colombia. I am currently the director of Upward. We work with Sudanese for Sudanese. We are here in Cairo attending mainly mental health, fostering resilience. Probably in this talk I will give more details, some of our activities, but this is what we are doing here in Cairo.
Okay, that's very excellent. It's overall is that the Upward, I had more connections with Dr. Roberto. I have seen a lot of what they do in the organization in general. We generally at the UCOTD, but we need to go on the topic. Our title is generally speaking about the humanitarian reality. When we say humanitarian reality, this is one of the biggest areas. And to link to the Sudan context is that it's very difficult because obviously that the international society and the international organizations is really not giving much light on the Sudan context in general. There are a lot of people are suffering, not only in but also people who are in the neighboring countries as well. So we are the, let's say, social society leaders and organizations. There are a lot of stuff being done from most of the organizations, but there are a lot of challenges. So that's what we appeal, even our polls, this discussion, it might reflect the let's say, the moral obligation to the sense of the international community if they view the reality of Sudan context in general. There are many realities are there, and the refugees context is that on the international convention, refugee is someone who is facing the severe crisis overall. We don't want to go to literalism of the definition of the word, but overall I think Sudan context is really heavy and very difficult and challenging. And for Upward, I think they did a very great job. They get a very powerful model. It's talking about community resilient model in general. So when you link this to the context of Sudan, people who have a traumatization process, let's say, or people who are affected by war, and there are, let's say, GBV issues, gender-based violence, as a result of the war, always war reflect a lot of circumstances in general. So I think, let me see, like if Dr. Roberto, he might think about how far he can connect his task or his work at the Upward, at the same time to look at the idea about the topic itself, because you talk about the humanitarian reality and the refugees in general. And as you are from far from the Colombia, and I am a Sudanese in generally speaking, you can say that this is the icon for the victims of war, or let's say a representative for the Sudanese voices in general. We do our best to shadow on the realities, but let me see if the Upward has already worked on so many areas, and if there is challenges to reflect on the reality of the refugees and the humanitarian condition in general.
Yes, sure. Actually, what you said is interesting. I am from Colombia. Somebody can say, what is somebody? Well, a person from Colombia talking about refugees in Cairo, for example, or why is he interested in the well-being of Sudanese, things like that. I think when we talk about humanitarian activities, humanitarian organizations, it comes to something so basic in values, moral, what is the interest of others, to love, to serve, to really, to put aside selfishness. I think it starts with that, because I am from Colombia. I was living in Ireland. I was working. I am a civil engineer. I am a doctor on environmental engineering. So what does it have to do with mental health, with resilience? It can be said. But I think that any human being, any person can play a role in, serving, being worried about the needs of others. What do you think?
I think you reflect a very deep and powerful idea about the humanitarian reflections. You have become the icon figure of someone from far, you know, from far, even from another continent, in generally speaking, and reflecting the sense of the humanitarian duty and the humanitarian reason, the cause for coming and contribute for the Sudanese society or Sudanese people in general and the refugees in Cairo. This is one of the reflection. I think this could be at the basis, the arsenal or theological basis of the what is meant to act on human level, or being human itself. It requires we need to engage not only on our social context but also we engage on the global context. I think that could be a model for someone who comes from far away, volunteering for the organization, giving his time by the definition of the love and care and doing good for those who need help. And this is, I think, a very powerful idea, I think, generally speaking. But to give you more idea about the Sudan context is that Sudan had a war where there's two military conflicts, obviously, speaking of there's two parties on the probably could be there is a political reason, maybe it could be a military reason, economic reasons, maybe it could be there social maybe reason behind it. We don't want to go on the context of military, but we want to go on the context of like how people are being affected on this coast, or let's say the realities. People are really being affected. I was there in Sudan. The war when it started. I'm in Umdurman. I have seen. I saw like the war even would be stopped in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. One month and something like that. It just like everything every day is getting escalating, getting deeper and deeper, deeper. That's why I moved to Egypt, and there are a lot of challenges as we Sudanese who are living from their homes. Like going, you're forcibly or drastically forced to move from your home to another country is really not easy. Even there is a more challenges out there. People are suffering on this, and now the context is that the reality of the refugees in general. We are not saying. The neighboring country they don't giving attention, but there is attention. But we are saying that the reality is very severe. It needs intervention from the international society, and it needs intervention not only from the local civil society organization, but also on the global context in generally speaking. So appealing the message because obviously the world is bleak on so many conflicts. There is the war not only in the Sudan context, but Sudan context is more severe there. There are around, let's say, 28 million people, let's say, facing this starvation, and people in Darfur, generally, for example, in North Darfur, Al-Fashir, Zamzam, there are a lot of people that are being affected by this war. People are being killed by the name of the tribalisms. People are being killed by, they are just a victim of war, in generally speaking. And coming back to the idea about the organization playing role, having some models to play to fulfill the gaps that the reality, let's say the reality that's facing that's the Sudanese here in the Cairo, for example, adapting someone on the new environment and adjusting them to live in a country where even the culture is a little bit far, and to readjust them their life and to give them some starting of programs or training workshop, for example, for them to adapt themselves to be, let's say, draw themselves in the reality of the situation they are there, and they could be conscious about it and they can prepare. I think the Upward has the good model, but I would like to see like this model is how far it's being conducted. Is it working in a way that too much effective as you are directly responsible on the let's say fulfilling the CRA?
Yes, maybe I give some context about the community resiliency model. It has been studied, implemented, and effective in different countries worldwide related to crises. Can mention Ukraine, you can mention Uganda, Sierra Leone, and many others. There are scientific research articles about the implementation of the community resiliency model in large population, let's say community. The model is based on individuals learning skills that will equip them, will help them to face trauma. In general, in our case, we had a team of experts from the Loma Linda University. This is a university in the United States. The dean of the School of Behavioral Health, Dr. Beverly Buckles, she came here. She came to Cairo, Egypt, with a team of doctors or professors from that university, and they trained a group of young adult Sudanese. They were actually studied and well prepared Sudanese. They speak English, so they were trained during 3 days, both at the beginning learning the skills, the contents, but also with the purpose of implementing the model, which is to extend the skills, the knowledge to their groups or to large groups in here in Cairo. So this is like in general. Now specifically what we see is that there are many needs of Sudanese families. We can mention, actually you can help me to add to this list. There is need of
People generally, yes, I observe that Sudanese, let's say in Egypt, they really, some kind of, what you call them, the people to come on the training sessions. They expecting that someone can give them hand on so many things, maybe materially, maybe food products, distribution of the aids, and they expect a lot. And one of the challenging I observe is that even from our side at the United Civil Organization for Training and Development, is that to start launching some activities is that always expecting, there is, you can't equip someone who is starving, someone who is the hungry from from the basic of life, missing a meal, for example. So that's why this is one of the direct challenge. I think it's very difficult, and we as a civil society, I think we need to work together. We need to fulfill this gap, because to empower someone who is lacking the basic needs, it's not easy. So we need to expect, let's say, a little bit. We can fulfill the expectations. We can't fulfill it directly, but we can do our best to fulfill the expectation in general to do that. And about the upward, I think it's when it's empower, let's say, the empowering civilian themselves, or let's say the young youth themselves, to be equipped with some training sessions, skills. They can train their community, they can train their people in by themselves. I have seen this from the upward. It's very powerful initiative, and the model is even, it's very, let's say, it's very amazing. I have a view up, and it's very powerful, I think. So in general, do you think the humanitarian condition in overall in the world in general, we talk about our ages, or in reality of today world in general, this is like the difficulties of implementing the programs? It's totally about the financial difficulties, or it's about finding the, let's say, the source of the funds, and let's say perhaps even donation, for example. Because if we look at the today international context, we see that it's become very challenging on today to help those who will need hands on the some project, for example, not necessarily on the training, but also on the food aid distribution in general. You see, like, there are financial difficulties, there are projects lacking from civil society. They don't doing their part perfectly, or do you think that the people are doing their part nicely, but there are some excuses on it in Sudan context?
Well, resources are always limited. There is a limitation. We need more people. We need to attend specific needs. We need things which require money. Places where to have meetings. We need to encourage, or to, let's say, help one person to come to the training sessions. I mean, it is true, if we make a list of the needs of the Sudanese: accommodation, food, a job, and we offer them, this is a training on something that we consider is important for them, and it is, but still, what is going to come to their mind? Maybe in their minds they are probably okay, but I have many other challenges or problems. Why is it going to be what I need or so important for me? I think the model, in the case specifically of the community resiliency model, actually it is related with that, because the individual doesn't know, but the skills are not going to solve my problem of finding a job. But because I am suffering anxiety,
Mhm.
depression, or anger that I cannot control.
Yeah.
If I need to regulate my nervous system, this is the uh, basic principle, or one of the basic principles of the community resiliency model, is to be able to regulate our nervous system to be able to make decisions, to do what is needed to solve my problem. Of course, we have to work in this part of helping people to understand that it is important. But in the case of Upward, and we have done that together, when it is possible for us, we help, we distribute aids in different ways to Sudanese because we are really interested in them, you know. So yes, it is a challenge. It is always a challenge. We need more people.
Yeah, I think yes. Even the resources are short. I think in most of the organizations, and because the expectation of the refugees themselves, they expect more because they are in the neighboring countries. They expect a lot. Organization can fulfill their need. For example, like they are busy with their daily needs. For example, they expect the food aid. For example, they have renting issues, but that's why they think like some people, some organization, they give them cash, they give them some package, and those are expectation, I think. But overall, it's coming back to the reality of our Sudan context. I think it's really severe, and the intention is very little, obviously. And yes, the upward, it's goodly on the context of their model. And we too, generally about the UCOTD, we had so many initiatives, we had so many, let's say, programs, projects, a lot of projects nowadays. But it's still the project to go on it, as we discussed about, you can fulfill someone's expectations if you just like want to train them, because mentally you can't make someone ready if they are not, ready for it, like they are okay with their daily need, for example, in general. So that's one of the challenges we are facing from the side of the UCOTD, I believe that. And generally speaking, about coming back to the idea of the refugees and the context of the humanitarians, do you think the refugees, they, let's say, by themselves, the community cultural differences, the gap of the culture of the country that they have come, for example, you think this could be one of the reasons for things that can get more challenging for them? That's why they expect more hands, more support. Or this is not a cultural gap. It's not about the cultural adaptability. It's perhaps could be the war condition is very severe. People are very affected. Like Sudan, this war, nobody expected this kind of distractions and vandalizations. Nobody expected. Nobody's think. For me, as I said, I expect like the war would be finished almost like just a days or weeks. And things just escalating, getting deeper and deeper. Generally, the private stuff is being destroyed. I was the academic manager of, let's say, EMC, English Multicultural Center. We had a lot of stuff we did, and in minutes, everything would be destroyed. But this is itself, I think, the direct experience on the war challenges and the crisis. Someone who is see the problems and trying to adapt themselves to come up with this. So that's why when I came here, we moved the youth. That's when we created an organization called the United Civil Organizations. And we think that we are the part of the community, we are the part of the victims, or let's say, the war victims. And we think that we can play a big role. We have a lot of questions in let's say, in the context of Sudan, from all levels, whether political side, whether military war itself, whether the social levels. We have views, but currently the current issue is very pressing. The reality of the humanitarian condition is very tough, and that's why we have some initiative programs like we are Upward. We're trying to create like a connection with the civil society organization. We're working on the umbrella idea. We will discuss more about what we do in coming time or other session. I believe that, but. Together and working at the collective sense, I think this is one of the very powerful ways to fulfill the gaps and empowering the youth from their victims to let them to craft themselves and connect their reality to the others, and whereby they can be ready and they be initiating the program by themselves. So moving on this, let's say the self-sufficiency and empowerment of the refugees, do you think like it's easy that we are the civil society organization, we can initiate any kind of programs, or let's say whether training program or training sessions or project in general, we need to focus more on the empowerment, or is it better to focus on the mental health, trauma, psychological support side? In your view, based on your ground fields in general, in which aspect do you think that we need to just indulge and feel more challenged on it?
Well, that is a very good question. And of course, I don't have all the answers. I will not say exactly the right answer, but I can say that both things are very important, actually. We need, from my point of view, organizations, even we have seen those part of our group or umbrella
Yes.
that we want to establish, that are more focused on, for example, initiatives that will help Sudanese to develop, to grow in their own business or their own initiatives. And I think this is amazing. The fact that Upward is not focused on that doesn't mean that this is not a very important. Actually, I think it is so important. For example, to give tools to Sudanese to work, to give them tools to grow in education, learn another language, English. These are things very important. The fact that our main focus as Upward is not on that direction doesn't mean that what we do is more important. I do not believe that. But of course, there is a need, immediate need of people who, as they were displaced by war, they face trauma, they need tools to be able to manage their situation. And so I think it is also important what we do.
Yeah, I think yes, like having a big projects and trying to tackle the refugees issues and the need, for example, starting from all aspects, I think it's good. So that's why we coming up as the team, civil society organizations, to make an umbrella. Each organization can play a part to fulfill the gaps that one organization is not giving attention on the side, for example. So that's the collective, the power. The majority always perfect. I believe that. So let's go to the last or final point about what do you think about the appealing idea about the international society? Do you think like we need more attention from the international society on this project, on this work, to view the Sudan context in a very attentive manner? We know that Sudan is really almost 2 years, let's say 2 years and getting to 3 years war, conflict, military. But missing the intentions of the international society on the reality of the people themselves and the reality of the context of the country itself, if it's fulfilling or not fulfilling. I think as me, as a Sudanese, I think the intention is very little. That's why I'm appealing on it, calling upon that international society has to give attentions. This is the people, they are not the statistics, they are the people, because the number is big. When we say like 28 million people are, direct threat or behind that and starvations. And for example, if you look at the statistic of the children, the outside of schools, it's very big, almost like from over like 10 years, almost getting 20 million children. This is the statistic coming from the UN. Almost getting to 20 million children, they are almost their hunger, lack of access to the school education, and lack of the malnutrition, for example, or let's say they are facing malnutrition generally, lack of food, that's exactly. And there are so many reasons out there. And that's why the intention need to be more carefully, more reflected deeply, I think, from the international society. We appreciate like the upwards, like Roberto himself coming from the far away, to give attention for Sudan context and contributing with his team and connecting the dots of this crisis. And I believe that this is one of the ways we can work together and raising our voices and enlightening the reasons for, let's say, the thing that's happening, the reality of the refugees. And the other part is that we not only talking about the, let's say, Egypt context, but also we want to talk about the Sudan context in what is happening. For example, like we are trying to create some kind of programs or initiative by time on the coming times about making the community kitchen, for example. Let's say preparing some packages for people. We generally in Sudan we call it takaya. Imagine someone cannot have the basic food, and people are really starved. That's one of the things. So that's why this whole project we are trying to implement in Sudan, but also even in the Cairo as well. But the community kitchen is necessarily need to be reflected deeply in Khartoum, Omdurman, Bahri, and North Darfur, specifically at Fashil, because there is the let's say refugee camps. They're being destroyed mostly by the RSF, and there are a lot of stuff happening. Generally speaking, the people are being killed and starved, and people are need access to food and healthy water. I think the sanitation in general. So that's our appeal. I think in generally, not only context of the individual levels, but also the international context where people have to give more attention from the media, from the international society, from the civil society, and the Sudanese and things like that. So you can finalize of your appeal on this, the context, the crises, the realities.
I agree totally from your point of view. I think the world needs to know people around different countries, organizations, people who are interested in the well-being of humanity.
Yeah.
I think that, for example, if it is possible that some of these groups know what people like you, Mr. Omer, his hard work, I am impressed day and night looking for ways to advance, to allow that different organizations and the individuals who are serving the Sudanese may work together when others see what AGWA is doing as well, how we are working for Sudan. If there is a chance to these groups to see what we are doing, maybe they will feel identified with our cause. And probably this is also my invitation right now. It is that take a look what we are doing. Take a look the situation of Sudan. Maybe you know very well, some of you, but I know that many people are not aware of what we see every day here, even in Cairo. And of course, you know way better because you know the situation of your country as from first person.
Yeah, I deeply appreciate this short sitting to discuss some views about Sudan context, which is the humanitarian reality and the refugees, ages in general. We didn't generalize it on so many levels, but it's just a short appeal. And then starting discussion for the wider level of the other episode. We will discuss more about the context of the war in Sudan, and we will deeply discuss on so many other areas, I think. And once more, we appreciate what Upward is doing for Sudanese community and in Cairo specifically. And we hope that we can extend our work, not only here, but also we can work in Sudan. And this is the United Civil Organization for Training and Development. I'm a Secretary General in general. So the last set.
Thank you for this invitation, and I hope that you continue in our next discussions. There are probably people that may sit here with Dr. Omer because they have a lot to offer. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Roberto. Thank you.